The third police car in 2 weeks pulled into my driveway at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. I'm Luke Foster, 34, a wellness coordinator at Windermere General Hospital. I've lived in Oak Point neighborhood for 6 years. Never had a single police visit before this month. The officer approached my front door with his flashlight already drawn. I met him on the porch in my bathrobe. He looked tired, annoyed. "Mr. Foster? We received another emergency call about a domestic disturbance at this address." I stared at him. "There's no disturbance here. I live alone." He checked his notepad. Anonymous caller reported screaming and possible violence. Said they heard glass breaking. My living room was visible through the front window. Television playing softly. No broken glass anywhere. The officer scanned the inside. "This is the third call this month about your property," he said. "Same anonymous caller each time." I felt my stomach drop. "What do you mean, same caller?" Voice recognition software flagged it. "Female caller. Uses different phones each time, but same vocal patterns." The officer left after documenting another false report. I stood in my doorway, watching his taillights disappear down Maple Ridge Drive. 3 false emergency calls. All targeting my address specifically. Someone was deliberately sending police to my house. I walked back inside and locked the door. My hands were shaking slightly. The neighborhood felt different now. Hostile, like someone was watching from behind drawn curtains. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts. Who would do this? Who had access to multiple phone lines? Who knew my schedule well enough to time these calls when I'd be home alone? The wellness coordinator in me recognized the pattern immediately. This wasn't random harassment. This was calculated psychological warfare designed to isolate me from my neighbors and create a reputation problem. I needed to document everything. Timestamps, officer badge numbers, exact wording of the alleged complaints. Because whoever was doing this had just made their first mistake. They'd established a pattern, and patterns could be traced. I grabbed a notebook from my kitchen drawer and started writing. Date, time, officer name, complaint details. If someone wanted to play games with emergency services, I'd give them a paper trail they hadn't counted on. The 4th call would come. I was certain of it, but next time I'd be ready. The 4th call came on a Tuesday morning while I was reviewing client files for my afternoon wellness sessions. I heard the sirens before I saw the patrol car pull into my driveway. This time, 2 officers approached my door. The same officer from before, plus a female partner who looked skeptical before I even opened the door. "Mr. Foster," the first officer said, "we have another report of domestic violence at this address." Caller said she heard a woman screaming for help. I gestured to my empty house. "As you can see, I live alone. No woman here, no screaming, no violence." The female officer stepped. "Sir, we're required to investigate every domestic violence call thoroughly. Mind if we take a quick look around?" I let them in. They walked through my modest 3-bedroom ranch house on Maple Ridge Drive. Kitchen clean. Living room organized. Home office with my wellness coordination materials spread across the desk. No signs of any disturbance. "This is getting ridiculous," the male officer said quietly to his partner. 4th false call in 6 weeks. After they left, I called the Windermere Police Department directly. Asked to speak with someone about the pattern of false reports targeting my address. Sergeant Martinez agreed to meet with me that afternoon. She brought a file folder thick with incident reports. "Mr. Foster, we've documented 7 false emergency calls to your address in the past 2 months," she said. "All from the same caller using voice masking technology now. She's getting smarter." 7 calls. I'd only witnessed 4 of them. "What kind of calls?" I asked. "Domestic violence, break-ins, medical emergencies, someone screaming, glass breaking. Always dramatic situations that require immediate response." Sergeant Martinez spread the incident reports across my kitchen table. Each one detailed a different alleged emergency. Each one completely fabricated. "The caller knows your schedule," she continued. "Calls always come when you're home alone, never when you have clients over or visitors." That detail hit me like ice water. Someone was watching my house, tracking my routine, timing these calls for maximum impact. "Do you have any idea who might be doing this?" Martinez asked. I thought about my neighbors. The Oak Point subdivision was small, 43 houses total. Most residents kept to themselves, but a few were actively involved in neighborhood activities. There's Quentin Walker, who lives 2 streets over, I said. He coordinates the dog park committee. We've had some disagreements about the new fence installation, Martinez made a note. What kind of disagreements? He wanted to install a 6-foot privacy fence around the entire dog park. I argued it would block sightlines and create safety issues. The HOA voted it down. When was this vote? I checked my calendar. 8 weeks ago, right around when these calls started. Martinez nodded. We'll look into it. In the meantime, I'm flagging your address in our system. Any future calls will be handled with extra scrutiny. After she left, I started my own investigation. I pulled up the Oak Point HOA meeting minutes from the past 6 months. The dog park fence proposal had been contentious. Quentin Walker had presented detailed plans and cost estimates. He'd lobbied individual homeowners for weeks before the vote. I remembered his reaction when the proposal failed. He'd accused me of sabotaging community improvements and putting personal opinions above neighborhood safety. But would he really make false police reports over a fence dispute? I needed more information. I drove to the dog park that evening and watched from my car. Quentin was there with his German Shepherd, talking to other dog owners. He seemed friendly enough? Normal. But I noticed something else. He had a clear view of my house from the dog park. The elevation difference meant he could see my driveway, front door, and living room windows. Perfect surveillance position. I started documenting everything. Took photos of the sight lines from the dog park to my house. Measured the distance with my phone's GPS. 237 feet. Close enough to see when I was home, when I had visitors, when my car was in the driveway. The next morning, I called the HOA management company. Asked for copies of all correspondence related to the dog park fence proposal. They emailed me a folder with 43 documents. Quentin Walker had been persistent. He'd sent follow-up emails to every homeowner who voted against the fence, including me. His messages had grown increasingly aggressive over time. One email stood out, sent 3 days before the first false police call. Luke, your opposition to reasonable safety measures shows a concerning disregard for community welfare. I hope you reconsider your position before something unfortunate happens. I screenshot the email and added it to my growing file. That afternoon, I installed a security camera system. 4 cameras covering my front yard, driveway, and side entrances. If someone was watching my house, I'd be watching back. The cameras recorded everything in high definition with night vision capability. Motion sensors triggered automatic recording. Cloud storage meant the footage couldn't be tampered with locally. 3 days later, the 5th false call came. This time, I was ready. I checked my security footage immediately after the police left. The timestamp showed exactly when the call was made based on the officer's arrival time. I scrolled back 15 minutes and watched. There, a figure walking past my house on the sidewalk. Male. Medium height. Dark jacket. He paused near my mailbox, looked toward my windows, then continued walking toward the dog park. I enhanced the image quality and zoomed in. The face was partially obscured, but the build and gait looked familiar. Quentin Walker. I had him on camera walking past my house exactly 15 minutes before a false emergency call was made to police. But I needed more proof. One sighting wasn't enough to establish a pattern. I started monitoring the security footage obsessively, checking every few hours, looking for patterns in foot traffic past my house. 2 weeks later, the 6th call came. Another alleged domestic violence situation. Another false alarm. This time, my cameras caught everything. Quentin Walker approached my house at 2:47 p.m. He walked slowly past my driveway, looking directly at my living room windows. He could see me working at my desk through the front window. At 2:52 p.m., he stopped walking and pulled out a cell phone. At 2:53 p.m., he made a call that lasted exactly 97 seconds. At 3:15 p.m., police arrived at my door, responding to an anonymous report of screaming and possible violence. I had him. Video of Quentin Walker making a phone call minutes before a false emergency report was filed about my address. But I needed to be absolutely certain. I called Sergeant Martinez and requested the exact timestamp of the emergency call. She confirmed it was received at 2:53 p.m. Perfect match. I burned the security footage to a DVD and made backup copies. Then I started researching Quentin Walker more thoroughly. Property records showed he'd lived in Oak Point for 6 years. No criminal history. Worked as an insurance adjuster. Divorced 2 years ago. No children. But his social media profiles revealed something interesting. Multiple posts about problem neighbors and people who don't care about community standards. He'd shared articles about dealing with difficult homeowners and protecting neighborhood property values. One post from 3 months ago caught my attention. Sometimes you have to take creative action when official channels fail. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, but the persistent wheel gets results. I screenshot everything and added it to my file. The pattern was clear now. Quentin Walker was systematically harassing me with false police reports because I'd opposed his dog park fence proposal. He was using emergency services as a weapon to intimidate me and damage my reputation in the neighborhood. But why target me specifically? Other homeowners had also voted against the fence. I reviewed the HOA meeting minutes again. During the fence discussion, I'd been the most vocal opponent. I'd presented alternative proposals and convinced several undecided homeowners to vote no. In Quentin's mind, I was the reason his project failed. Now he was trying to make my life miserable. Force me to move. Eliminate the opposition. I had enough to confront him directly. Video footage. Phone records correlation. A clear motive. A documented pattern of harassment. But I needed one more piece of proof. Something that would make the case absolutely bulletproof. I decided to set a trap. I spent the next week planning my approach carefully. Direct confrontation wouldn't work. Quentin Walker was too smart for that. He'd deny everything and probably escalate his harassment campaign. I needed him to reveal himself on record. First, I contacted the Windermere Community Conflict Resolution Board. Officer Jordan Taylor from Civil Rights handled property dispute cases. I scheduled a consultation for the following Tuesday. Mr. Foster, these false emergency reports constitute harassment under Montana Code 455220, Officer Taylor explained during our meeting. But we need clear of intent and pattern. I showed her my documentation. The security footage. The correlation between HOA meetings and police calls. Quentin's social media posts. This is substantial, she said. But we need him to admit intent or demonstrate ongoing behavior. Have you considered a controlled interaction? She suggested I approach Quentin about a neighborhood matter while wearing a recording device. Montana is a one-party consent state for audio recordings. As long as I participated in the conversation, recording was legal. I purchased a digital voice recorder from Radio Shack. Tested it multiple times. The audio quality was clear from 15 feet away. My plan was simple. I'd approach Quentin about organizing a neighborhood cleanup day. Get him talking about community issues. Let him reveal his true feelings about me and the dog park situation. Thursday afternoon, I saw Quentin working in his front yard. Perfect opportunity. I activated the recorder and walked over. Hey Quentin, got a minute? I'm thinking about organizing a spring cleanup for Oak Point. Wondered if you'd help coordinate. He looked up from his flower bed. His expression shifted from neutral to cold. Cleanup day? That's rich coming from you. What do you mean? You know exactly what I mean, Luke. You've been nothing but trouble since you moved here. Blocking every improvement project? Making life difficult for people who actually care about this neighborhood. I kept my voice calm. I just want what's best for Oak Point. Best for Oak Point? Quentin stood up, brushing dirt from his hands. You killed the dog park project. You know how many families wanted that amenity? The HOA voted it down, democratic process, because you poisoned people against it, spread lies about property values and maintenance costs. This was going better than expected. He was revealing his resentment clearly. I presented factual concerns based on city ordinances and HOA bylaws. Factual concerns. Quentin's voice dripped with contempt. You're a wellness coordinator, Luke. What do you know about property development or community planning? Enough to read city code and understand budget implications. You think you're so smart, so righteous, but you have no idea what it takes to build a real community. I sensed an opening. Some people might say blocking projects isn't the only way to cause problems in a neighborhood. Quentin's eyes narrowed. What's that supposed to mean? Just that there are different ways to make someone's life difficult. Different ways to send a message. For a moment, I thought he might confess. His jaw tightened. His hands clenched into fists. Then he stepped closer. Are you accusing me of something, Luke? Just making conversation about neighborhood dynamics. I think this conversation is over. He turned and walked toward his house. I'd pushed too hard, but the recording captured his clear animosity and admission that he viewed me as an enemy. Back home, I reviewed the audio. Quentin's hostility was obvious, but he hadn't confessed to filing false reports. I needed a different approach. That evening, I called Abigail Morrison, my neighbor who'd witnessed the second police response. She'd been supportive during the investigation. Abigail, I need your help with something. Would you be willing to make a statement about the police incidents at my house? Of course. Those calls were obviously bogus. No emergency vehicles, no actual problems. Could you document the exact times and dates you witnessed responses? Officer Taylor said witness statements strengthen harassment cases. Absolutely. I keep a neighborhood log anyway. Too many weird things happening lately. Interesting. What kind of weird things? Utility trucks on our street when no one requested service. People taking photos of houses. Someone going through mailboxes last month. Did you report the mailbox incident? Filed a report with the postal inspector. They said it's been happening in several neighborhoods. Probably identity theft attempts. Or someone gathering information for harassment campaigns. I asked Abigail to document everything she'd observed. Dates, times, descriptions. Pattern recognition was key to building a solid case. The next morning, I received another visit from Windermere Police. Different officers this time. Sergeant Rodriguez and Officer Chen. Mr. Foster, we received a report about suspicious activity at this address. Possible drug manufacturing. My stomach dropped. Drug manufacturing? That's completely false. We need to conduct a brief inspection. Standard procedure for this type of call. I let them search. They found nothing, because there was nothing to find. But the humiliation was intense. Neighbors watching from their windows. Police cars in my driveway again. After they left, I immediately called Officer Taylor. This is escalation, she said. Drug manufacturing allegations are serious. We need to move quickly. What are my options? File a formal harassment complaint. Request a restraining order. We can also trace the emergency calls more thoroughly. How long does that process take? Complaint processing is typically 2 weeks. Restraining order hearing within 5 business days if we demonstrate immediate threat. I decided to file both. The harassment had to stop. Officer Taylor helped me complete the paperwork. Montana Code 455220 defines harassment as repeated communications or conduct that would cause a reasonable person substantial emotional distress. False emergency reports clearly qualified. The restraining order petition required more detailed. I provided the security footage, phone records correlation, witness statements from Abigail Morrison, and the recorded conversation with Quentin. This is a strong case, Officer Taylor said. But be prepared for him to deny everything. He'll claim the emergency calls came from someone else. Can't you trace the calls to his phone? Emergency services don't always capture caller ID, especially if someone uses a payphone or burner phone. That was a problem. Without direct phone, the case relied on circumstantial proof. But the pattern was too precise to be coincidental. The timing correlation was mathematically improbable. The restraining order hearing was scheduled for the following Friday. I had 1 week to prepare my presentation. I spent that week organizing into a clear timeline. Created charts showing the correlation between HOA meetings and police calls. Printed screenshots of Quentin's social media posts about, quote, problem neighbors. Abigail Morrison agreed to testify as a witness. She'd observed 4 of the 6 police responses and could confirm no actual emergencies occurred. Thursday night, I received one final police visit, this time for a reported domestic disturbance with possible weapons involved. The officers were apologetic but thorough. They interviewed me extensively about my living situation, mental health, and recent stress levels. Mr. Foster, these calls are clearly false, Sergeant Martinez said. Someone is wasting emergency resources and harassing you systematically. I have a restraining order hearing tomorrow. Hopefully this stops soon. Good. This pattern is concerning. 7 false reports in 6 weeks. That's criminal misuse of emergency services. 7 reports. I'd only documented 6. When was the 7th call? 2 weeks ago. Reported gas leak. We dispatched the fire department. I'd been out of town that weekend, visiting my parents in Billings, but someone had still filed a false report about my address. This proved the harassment wasn't opportunistic. It was planned and systematic. The next morning, I arrived at the courthouse 30 minutes early. Officer Taylor met me in the hallway. Ready for this? As ready as possible. Remember, focus on facts. Timeline. Pattern of behavior. Don't speculate about motives. The hearing room was small and formal. Judge Patricia Hendricks presided. Quentin Walker sat at the defendant's table with a court-appointed attorney. He looked calm and confident, like he expected to win. I presented mine methodically. The timeline of police calls. Security footage showing Quentin's presence during call times. His social media posts expressing hostility toward problem neighbors. Abigail Morrison testified about witnessing multiple police responses with no actual emergencies. Officer Taylor explained the legal definition of harassment and how false emergency reports qualified. Then Quentin's attorney presented his defense. Your Honor, my client categorically denies making any false emergency reports. The presented is purely circumstantial. Correlation does not prove causation. Quentin took the stand and denied everything under oath. I've never filed false police reports. I have no reason to harass Mr. Foster. We disagree about neighborhood policies, but that's normal in any community. His performance was convincing. Calm, reasonable, slightly confused about why he was being accused. But Judge Hendricks had reviewed all the carefully. Mr. Walker, the correlation between your documented presence and emergency calls is statistically significant. Combined with your expressed hostility toward Mr. Foster and the complete absence of actual emergencies, this court finds sufficient of harassment. She granted the restraining order. Quentin was prohibited from contacting me, directly or indirectly. No phone calls, emails, or third-party communications. He couldn't come within 100 yards of my property. Most importantly, any future false emergency reports would result in immediate arrest for violating the restraining order. Walking out of the courthouse, I felt a mixture of relief and exhaustion. The harassment would stop, but the damage was already done. My reputation in Oak Point was tainted. Neighbors viewed me as a problem magnet. But at least I had legal protection now, and that could help other harassment victims. Officer Taylor shook my hand outside the courthouse. Good work, Mr. Foster. This case will help us recognize similar patterns in the future. What happens if he violates the order? Immediate arrest, plus criminal charges for the original harassment. Montana takes restraining order violations seriously. I drove home feeling cautiously optimistic. The legal system had worked. Justice had been served. But I knew Quentin Walker wouldn't give up easily. Restraining orders only work if people follow them. I needed to stay vigilant and document any future incidents. The real test would come in the following weeks.